All right. Thanks, Sean. This is awesome, man. It's cool. So Competition Wednesday is here for us. It really kickstarts us everything into gear, and we're getting stronger as we go, from the ball and our turnover margin, our tackling margin, and we're working hard at that to make sure that continues. These runs are built on fundamentals, execution, and finishing, not new schemes and that. It's absolutely how we get down. And so our team's got a lot of joyful intensity about us. It's not rare to see guys attacking the shit out of somebody or something and seeing huge, joyful smiles on their faces, whether that's a kickoff cover that goes inside the 25 or a defensive takeaway or even explosive play. And so it's a rare combination for a team to have that, because they are intense and they're tough in the same way. They really enjoy doing what they're doing together. So I don't think I've coached a team that had that type of balance and connection together. So it's really cool to see. And lastly, some condolences to Pete Medhurst's family. I know he meant a lot to a lot of people in this room. So I wanted to make sure, although I didn't get a chance to work with him, sound like a real football guy, and I'm sure I would have enjoyed that. So I just wanted to say that, and then we'll get rocking with everything for today. So let's get it rolling.
Hey, Dan, a few rookie quarterbacks have gotten to this point, cannot get over that hump. What makes Jayden maybe more unique to maybe get beyond here?
Yeah, we don't think that way in terms of, looking back at stuff, John, is honestly just into this game, man. Like he's got rare in-the-moment skills that have allowed us to be into this spot when it's like mental chaos going down in 2 minutes in these tight moments where it could feel that tight. He's got the experience of somebody that's played a lot more football than a first-year player. But we don't get into the historical stuff, man. It's just, how do we get down this weekend?
And then one of the things he's done this year is he gets here really early, gets into the bubble, go through the walkthrough. How do you see all that stuff? First of all, have you ever been in there with him? But how do you see all that stuff paying off for him, whether in practice and in games?
Yeah, for all of us, I think we can appreciate a process. And his process, that is a big part of it. And so having gone through that prior to the rest of the offensive unit going through that, there's a feeling of being a leg up. And doing that type of extra work sometimes just also provides the right motivation for yourself. I've seen that look. I'm ready. You've done the work at it, so when the moment comes, you're ready to deliver. So it does come from the work. There's a side of that just like he relentlessly competes. And then going through it before you get to it, it's like, here's the cliff notes before you get to the, literally cliff notes, before you get to the to the regular install that would take place.
What have you seen from Zach Ertz this season? I know he had a couple of difficult years there, but it seems like he's really revived his love of football again. Do you sense that as well?
I definitely do. And like you said, as a competitor like him, when you have a dark spot, you don't know where football is going. There's injuries. There's all sorts of stuff to go. So to see him recapture that on a personal level, I have seen that, and I can relate to that, knowing that that's a journey that lots of people go through. And so to see him come out the other side and being able to share the knowledge and find, not just the joy of playing, but like playing well. I had known red zone and third downs and 2 minute would be a factor, and he surpassed those and, kept going on to it. So, yeah, he has really applied like every bit of it, man. He wasn't going to miss this op.
You've made recovery a priority this season, having that recovery period during the days and making sure players really take care of themselves. Have you seen that help guys? Have you seen it translate to where you're now deep in postseason?
Yeah, the way that we said it, like, we're going to go really hard, so we need to have recover hard as well. And so that was part of the competition and the practice style and attitude. If we were going to push it this far and this hard and this fast, there had to be a balance on the other side of that. And so it has been effective for us. And knowing that when we get to the game, man, we're really ready to go let it rip. And that's mentally, physically, just every part of it, you have to be ready to go. And so I think staying consistent by doing it week after week, Nikki, that also helps. Like, we're not changing from this week to this week of how we do things. We've really tried to stay consistent in that approach. I think that process helps the ball players too.
Dan, in this matchup, you know what Philly wants to do, and vice versa. They know what you guys want to do. So how do you find those edges, those winning edges that maybe can sway the outcome?
Yeah, I think the natural narrative, you know them and they know you, and I don't really think of it that way. You start right back at it. What are fresh eyes on the games? What are fresh eyes on the times from when we played it? The easy narrative would be, hey, they know us, we know them, but it's different than that to me. This is our first time playing them in the postseason. Game one, what needs to be different? What could be the same? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? Same thing in the second game. And so as you get into the third matchup with somebody, you want to make sure you have fresh eyes for the first two. Hey, did I miss something? And was there something there that I didn't, think we had or did? And both teams will have things on their call sheets that never got called in that game. And you do have those up still that you've been practicing, and sometimes every play on your call sheet doesn't make it into the game, and you keep those alive as well.
And again, I go back to the, outside these walls, again, you guys are probably considered the underdog in this matchup. Is it almost, you'd prefer that at this point, knowing what you've gone through and kind of us against the world? Nobody really expected Washington to be in this situation.
We just don't let the outside narrative kind of drive it. And internally, we've got a lot of expectations about how we can play and what we do, but we never, went too far outside of things. Did we feel dismissed or put off? Yeah, of course some. I think that happened in the opening game. I felt dismissive. Hey, man, hang in there. It's going to be a long time. I was like, hey, F you, that's not how it's going to go down. And I was upset, but it wasn't disrespect. It was dismissiveness. And I felt some kind of way, but it didn't motivate me more to say that's how they think of us. It wasn't disrespect. It was we're going to be a lot better than what we just showed today. And eventually we'll show that. So it's not a prove it to everybody else or underdog story. It's, it's how we get down. This is not a 7-game series. And so, we got to play our best on Sunday at 3 o'clock. And that, to me, is the biggest factor.
What makes the Eagles' defensive front so successful, especially stopping the run out of light boxes?
Combination of two things. One, let's start just, from the talent standpoint inside. They've got a really deep crew of, rushers, run stop, kind of the whole combination. And Vic's excellent in terms of mixing the right front, the right coverage. He makes it challenging for play callers to go against. So this run look, is it not? And so that's a challenge to stay. Every possession you're going to feel this, you got to get this play, you got to get this one, because a good play caller, they're going to change it. And so you want to make sure you take advantage of your ops. So I think it's twofold. The balance of how to utilize the talent that's there combined with, the scheme that he put in, because it's different than what they had done.
What have you learned about Nick Sirianni's approach and game management, facing him the first 2 times?
I wouldn't say, because going against their team over the last few years, they're aggressive. The 4-down football style is similar to ours in terms of being bold and aggressive. They play tough, but there's not one marker that stands out to me more than another, other than much like last week, both teams, be ready to defend all 4 downs, because both teams not only are willing, they're both excellent at it.
And you got some decisions to make on the offensive line for Sunday without going into detail about who plays where. Is there any thought given to, let's just get our best 5 offensive linemen out there and we'll figure it out?
Yeah, a lot of thought to that, David. And first, let's give a quick shout to Trent of coming in and really being somebody that can handle that. But yes, that is absolutely, how we go about it. And that would be there at any spot. Like what I was saying earlier, what's the best thing for us to win this game? And then that is all there is. And so, that's really where we're at in terms of the next 3 days of our practice.
I was wondering, once the season begins, I'm sure the communication is different with Adam and with Josh than it may have been during the offseason, during OTAs. I wonder specifically, what's your communication like with Josh during the season? What is he curious about? What does he want to know about?
Yeah, well, one thing you may or may not know, this guy's a hell of a competitor. And, he's a college wrestler and, he loves to compete, and he loves all of that. on our Mondays is a recap of the game. And so we review some of the things by the numbers, decisions, what would we go, where did it go well. And then one of the things that I enjoy most about Mondays with Adam and Josh, and Bob is on the call as well, is we get to maybe show 6 to 10 plays of what were the deciding plays in the game. And so I specifically like those times as a coach, so I can show this is what we were thinking, this is what happened. And so it's a good way to highlight the player, the moment, the situation, why we chose to do what we did. And it's good because I want him to be able to ask anything. Why'd you go for it? Why did you do that? And he's curious in that way. But those calls are on Mondays, and I enjoy those. And then before the game, those are ones of game planning, specifics, but I've really enjoyed the Mondays, especially of follow-ups and why we do what we do. The video helped. We didn't do that on the first game, so I was trying to explain stuff, and it was just clunky. And let's do the video together too. And so that to me has been something, wherever that meeting has taken place all over the world, and they literally have been, I've really enjoyed that. And I know there's some times where it's, the daylight is different where he is than where I'm at. And I really respect that he always has time for Adam and I.
Hey, Coach, so to DA's first question about the offensive line, what have you seen from rookie Brandon Coleman?
Yeah, I thought just a lot of resilience early, battled through some of the injuries. If you go way back, came even to training camp, and is he going to be ready, and will he be there, and battling, some with Big Luke into the spots. But I think the resilience is the stuff that has impressed me the most as a first-year player, battling through it, and he's grown a lot into that. Like I can play with that. Much like a baseball pitcher, you may not know he doesn't have his A game, but he was able to really go and deliver, and that's a good trait to have for any pro player in almost any sport where they have to play through those. And he's really done a good job on that. Now that he's back and healthy, that's a big deal.
Very early on in you all's journey, the team's journey, you talked about establishing the commander standard.
Yep.
That the players came together and crafted together.
Yep.
How much have you seen that standard just until this moment right now with you talking to us? How much is that still stuck and applied?
It does, because we try to keep it on the front of our thoughts. And whether that's pointing out the leading moments, it's pointing out any of the parts that we said. And so as opposed to, I'm more of the person, instead of don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, I'd like to see more of that, I'd like to see more of that, I'd like to see more of that. And it's an easy reminder for me to say this is a guy that really upheld that. We even do it on Mondays on some of the scout team players of the week who gave the absolute best look of Gibbs or whatever that looked like. And so I try to acknowledge those of like every role here is really important. Like every person that walks in that building, in that door, like they have a role in our winning. And so that's really important because we all make sure we're treating everybody in that same space. You're welcome.
Coach, you mentioned that joyful intensity when you started talking. This season, Jayden has had the habit of smiling after he takes hits, whether it's on the sideline or taking a sack. He gets up and smiles. When did you first notice that, and what does that say about the kind of player and competitor he is?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever will be comfortable with that. More I felt, not in those moments, but he is an elite competitor. He really is. It's one of the things I admire most about him, that he just doesn't back down from the moments. I'd like to see less smiling in that instance and more in some of the others. But one thing that he does do, if you watch him in the game, he can stay in it a really long time. He does not do this. And some of the times you see him excited or maybe just smiling at the end when we were going to victory formation, because like on the sideline, he is the Terminator. Like there's not a lot of stuff that's going to go on externally. He can really stay in it.
Hey, Dan. Adam Kilgore, I'm with the Post. All four quarterbacks left pose a really significant running threat. You've sort of seen that evolution firsthand over many years. Are we to the point where it's almost like a prerequisite that you have to have that component of play from the quarterback spot to sort of be an elite offense and to make it this far this season? Yeah,
Adam, I think it certainly helps because the extended plays that happen, in our game. whether it's the rush, the blitz, anything for the guys that can get outside the pocket and remain a dual threat, remain a passer on the run to rip it, or if they're dropping too far back to go. So it definitely, there's different levels of it for sure, but I would say it certainly feels like the guys are most difficult to defend have that capability.
Hey, Dan, obviously Saquon Barkley having an absolutely incredible season. Seems like he's just getting better and better into the playoffs now, too. I know you guys have faced some explosive running backs. There's been some guys that have been able to break out for big runs. How much of an emphasis is he this week, and how do you guys, for a third time this season, prepare to face him?
Yeah, every single time that I've coached against him, he's been the emphasis. And he's a remarkable player. We have faced some excellent running backs, through this season, and for him another one, and it's the explosive plays that he can create. There's some running backs it's 4, it's 5, but it's the long ones with that type of speed and the explosive plays, and that's what's most difficult when you're good, not so good. And so you have to be able to do right over and over again and not get bored with just being in the right spot over and over again, and the tackling. In games like this, it's just a premium. That's why we do work so hard at those things, to make sure our fundamentals are staying. Like if other teams are deteriorating at that, I want it just the opposite, that we're tackling at a higher level today than we were months ago. And so we work really hard at that specific skill. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.